In the Tyrrell team, it's not just Jean Alesi that's brilliant. His car, designed by Harvey Postlethwaite, goes well everywhere, but especially on a track like the Hungaroring. But what's the reason for that?
Oh, that's very simple. It's because we're running with between 60 and 100 horsepower less than most of the competitors that way. And when we go to Hockenheim, Silverstone, anywhere where there are long straights and lots of acceleration, we just can't. Even though I think the aerodynamics of the car are very good, we just can't. We can't hold a candle to them. But get here, where the power advantage isn't so big, or the power advantage is less. Let's say we can be competitive.
You know, the start is very important, so you have to be concentrate only for the start, because it's like Monte Carlo. You can pass very easy. So if you start in good position, you can from the beginning push without problems and try to keep this position all the race.
The Tyrrell looks and goes well, but the all-conquering McLaren team have had problems in Hungary. Ayrton Senna starts from 4th on the grid instead of his usual pole position because he went off in the last vital practice session. And in a season which gets better by the race, it's not an all-McLaren front row. It's an all-Williams front row, with Belgian Thierry Boutsen occupying his first ever pole position. At the Hungaroring, superb handling is the name of the game, and that means superb suspension. Jonathan Palmer.
As with your own family car, suspension is required on Grand Prix cars to cope with bumps, something the Hungaroring circuit has, by racetrack standards, in abundance. The basic components are the same: springs to absorb the bumps, dampers to stop the car continuing to bounce, together with anti-roll bars to keep the car flat on cornering. Don't get confused, by the way, with this, the protective roll-over bar, which every driver hopes he'll never need. Any suspension system must compromise between being soft and supple to provide a comfortable ride and being hard to sharpen steering response and provide optimum cornering grip. Clearly a Grand Prix car is totally designed for performance, hence the very harsh, jerky ride so obvious from the cockpit. This is achieved by using immensely stiff springs, designed to allow just millimeters of movement before the car hits the ground when sparks fly from the skid blocks. The length and position of these links, the wishbones, are carefully designed to keep the tyre flat on the ground at all times. The springs themselves are tucked in out of the airstream, and the full weight of the car is taken by this tiny rod. The relative stiffness of the suspension front to rear is critical to the way a car behaves at the cornering limit, and mechanics are often changing front and rear springs during practice sessions. So vital is it to maintain this balance throughout the race that the driver can even adjust the front suspension from the cockpit. Conventional metal springs are currently used by all, though with computerized active suspensions being developed by most top teams, their days are surely numbered.
Onde se disputa o Grande Prémio da Hungria a cerca de 30 km da cidade de Budapeste. Este é o 5º Grande Prémio da Hungria. O contrato inicial foi feito por 5 anos e antes de ontem anunciado aqui pelo ministro húngaro dos Transportes e Comunicações de que o contrato para mais 5 anos tinha sido renovado. Haverá, portanto, mais pelo menos 5 grandes prémios da Hungria depois daquele que vai aqui disputar-se hoje. Grande Prémio da Hungria no Hungaroring, com quase 4 km de perímetro, 77 voltas, corrida prevista para mais ou menos 1 hora e 50 minutos. Primeira novidade, a grelha de partida, logo na primeira fila, ocupada pelos 2 Williams-Renault. Não é uma novidade no Hungaroring, já o ano passado, Riccardo Patrese, num Williams-Renault, tinha feito a pole position. E recordo, comandou grande parte da corrida até desistir com um problema mecânico de caixa de velocidades. Mas a novidade este ano é que a pole position pertence ao companheiro de equipa de Riccardo Patrese, o belga Thierry Boutsen, que é assim o piloto belga aqui no Hungaroring. Ele faz a primeira pole position da sua carreira. Thierry Boutsen, os melhores lugares na grelha de partida que tinha conseguido até hoje foram sempre o terceiro lugar. No Japão em 87, aqui na Hungria em 88, no Mónaco em 89 e já este ano no Brasil. E consegue agora a primeira pole position da sua carreira com o Williams-Renault a dominar, portanto, a sessão de treinos de ontem e os dois carros com o motor Renault, um novo motor Renault, com uma nova especificação que dá mais potência e também pela primeira vez uma nova gasolina da Elf preparada para esta versão do motor Renault, a imporem-se aos demais e a fazerem primeiro e segundo na sessão de treinos. Estamos com imagem do ar neste momento. Há vários helicópteros que chegam e partem aqui do Hungaroring. Tem uma grande extensão de terreno onde podem os helicópteros aterrar. Agora imagens do Leighton House, ex-March, dos Lotus, e em breve teremos de certo a repetição das posições da grelha de partida. Oportunidade talvez para falar do warm-up desta manhã, carros mais ou menos em condições de corrida e warm-up.
Ilyen tűzálló maszk, itt lehet látni a sisakon belül ezt a fehér maszkot, amelyik védi a tűztől, itt pedig Tanelli autójának kesztyű még kint van, tehát a kesztyűt nem vette ki, ez a kesztyű is.
Safely in position, our commentary team of James Hunt and Murray Walker.
Welcome to the superb and superbly sunny Hungaroring, which is bulging with Hungarians, East Germans, Czechs and tens of thousands of others to see round 10 of the 1990 World Championship. And if Formula One 1990 has been turning you on, I like to think, to use a famous phrase, that you ain't seen nothing yet. Because it looks as though, as Steve has just said, the previously all-conquering McLaren team, having been beaten by Ferrari 4 times in 9 races this season, face a new challenger. For the first time since Spain 1987, 45 races ago, the 2 Williams drivers are on the front row of the grid. Then it was Nelson Piquet and Nigel Mansell. Today it is Thierry Boutsen and Riccardo Patrese. And the Hungaroring seems to suit the Williams car. Last year, Riccardo Patrese started from pole position and led for 52 of the 77 laps. It's the same race distance today. And today, as I've just told you, the 2 drivers for Williams, the Belgian Thierry Boutsen, the Italian Riccardo Patrese, driving in his 202nd Grand Prix, are up there on the grid. And McLaren was struggling yesterday to get 3rd and 4th places on the grid. Both Gerhard Berger and Ayrton Senna went off the circuit in their efforts to close the gap and get ahead. Nigel Mansell is 5th on the grid, and Jean Alesi, the sensational Frenchman, is 6th, but this morning in the warm-up half hour he went off twice in 2 different cars. And the interesting fact is that as you look at the World Championship Constructors table and see that McLaren are 20 points ahead of Ferrari, Alain Prost today in the warm-up, using the softest possible compound tyre that he could, went round fastest. He's supremely confident, although he was only 8th on the grid, but we shouldn't forget that last year Nigel Mansell started from 12th on the grid and finished 1st in the race. Well, there we are. There's the front row of the grid, Thierry Boutsen, first time there in pole position for Patrese. Then the 2 McLarens, Gerhard Berger ahead of Ayrton Senna. Nigel Mansell 5th, and he's using the very latest 037 Ferrari V12 engine. Jean Alesi in the V8-powered Tyrrell. Alessandro Nannini, a brilliant 2nd in Germany in the Benetton, going well here. Alain Prost has got his work cut out, 8th on the grid. Piquet 9th. Using the new Ford engine, as is Nannini, and Andrea De Cesaris is in 10th place on the grid.
Yes, and it would appear, Murray, that Alain Prost is not going to be running the very soft tyres he used in the warm-up, because the vast majority of the Goodyear runners have elected for the C compound, which is the medium soft race compound, although Maurizio Gugelmin and Martin Donnelly have elected to go on the D compound, which is a bit softer than that, and that would probably constitute a little bit of a gamble on their respective parts. But there you see Donnelly 12th, well down on the grid rather,
fact, in 18th place, Martin Donnelly on the grid. So a gamble from that sort of place, with this tight circuit with overtaking being so difficult, of course, is worthwhile. Now, Prost is running on C's, as are most of the other Goodyear runners, and that will, of course, from 8th on the grid, make it a difficult race for him. But, as we know, this is a track where tyres play an even more important part than usual, and the cars that are harder on tyres may well struggle in the latter part of the race. That would, well, certainly the Ferrari is particularly soft on tyres, particularly kind to tyres, but it will be pretty amazing if we can see a result like last year when Nigel Mansell came from 12th on the grid. He was helped by a back marker to make his quite brilliantly opportunistic overtaking move past Senna, but he was still pretty stuck for getting past without that help. That won him the race, but it will be more difficult. McLaren's, I think, are more competitive this year. They really struggled last year on this circuit, but they've done a lot of work on their chassis recently, and the car is looking better.
Magnificent circuit, the Hungaroring, specially built for the Hungarian Grand Prix, the first one, although as a matter of interest it was a Hungarian, Patrese, who won the first ever Grand Prix in 1906. And the Hungaroring is 2.5 miles long. It runs around the edges of a bowl, and as a result of that you get gradient as well as some very interesting corners. The really nasty one, which was a loop after the first right-hander, has been cut out, or was cut out last year, and has vastly improved the circuit. Boutsen's time was 1 minute 17.9, and that's a speed of just under 114 miles an hour for his pole position lap.
Yes, a marvellous effort by the Williams team, and quite took McLaren's, amongst others, by surprise right at the end of qualifying. About 10 minutes to go, the two Williamses went out and did their time. They seem to like this circuit because, as Murray pointed out, Patrese was on pole here last year. So away they go on the parade lap. Camera in the middle of the grid there, cars going around it, and a truly enormous crowd here today, reminiscent of the crowd here for the first Hungarian Grand Prix, which obviously had that added excitement of being of the novelty value when there were 200,000 people here, maybe not quite as many, but certainly the opening of the borders to Western Europe and the freedom with which people can now move in and out has brought a huge crowd of Western Europeans from Germany, Austria, Italy, and you see, I've seen a lot of Yugoslavian plated cars in the enormous traffic jams this morning, so a truly international crowd here in Central Europe on a marvellous sunny day. And that hopefully should also seal the future of the Hungarian Grand Prix. It was in question, and yet it's now been signed up with the Constructors Association for another 5 years. It has been on slightly rocky financial ground, but this big crowd really should be a big boost for the future of the race.
Now, as they're coming round to the start, led by Thierry Boutsen and Riccardo Patrese, let me tell you here and now, when the light goes to green, very carefully to watch row 2 of the grid. On the right-hand side, behind Thierry Boutsen, as you look at the screen, will be Gerhard Berger. On the left-hand side, behind Riccardo Patrese, as you look at the screen, will be Ayrton Senna. Used to being in pole position, he's had 47 of them, down in only 4th position on this particular occasion. And I say that because always the start is important, but here in Hungary it is particularly important on account of the fact that it is extremely difficult to pass on this circuit. There is only one natural passing point. It's the bottom left corner of your screen. The start and finish straight leads into that 180-degree right-hander, and it's the breaking point for that which is the place where most passing, indeed virtually all passing, is done. And Senna and Berger will both be just as anxious to get into that corner first as Riccardo Patrese, starting from second on the grid, and pole man Thierry Boutsen will be to stop them. And watch Jean Alesi from row 3, not to mention Nigel Mansell. This is the most open race that we have had this season. You're seeing something that hasn't been seen for a very, very long time, as both James and I have said. The sight of the two Williams in front, this time powered by Renault engines. The last time they were powered by Honda turbocharged engines. Riccardo Patrese there, taking up his position. Thierry Boutsen is already there, having won the Duna Grand Prix the night before last, and that was a Grand Prix for radio control model cars, and he conclusively beat his teammate Riccardo Patrese. Now, enough of that. 77 laps of the Hungarian Grand Prix coming up. You can see the last drivers on the grid coming round to take up their position. Larini and Alex Caffey. On the right, Boutsen. On the left, Patrese. Behind Boutsen is Berger. Behind Patrese is Senna. Go! And Boutsen is going to lead into the right-hander first. Coming up alongside and going through. It's the McLaren going through, and that looks like Ayrton Senna right up. No, it's the Williams in the lead, and it's Thierry Boutsen.
Yes, I think that's Berger who got through. Tremendous. Berger, in fact, made a fabulous start. Two Williams drivers spotted that and quite rightly closed the gap that he was aiming for down the middle. And Mansell having a look in the Ferrari there at Patrese, having a look at both sides, and Senna down behind that group in some 5th or 6th place. So a poor start for Ayrton Senna.
And he's going to have to work very hard indeed to make up that deficit. So the race at the present moment just started. Thierry Boutsen leading from pole position, and it's a Benetton up into 3rd position, it looks like, but we'll check. No, it's Patrese. And so Thierry Boutsen leads. Gerhard Berger is in 2nd place in the McLaren as they come round the far side of the circuit, this 2.5-mile lap. And you can see what I meant now about what a superb circuit. There's Boutsen. There's the gap between Thierry Boutsen leading, Berger in 2nd place, Patrese 3rd.
Prost, I just counted out on the back of the circuit, in 9th place. So the two World Championship.
And the order is still the same. Lap 2, Boutsen leads, Berger 2nd, Patrese 3rd, Mansell 4th.
Yes, and of course the Renault engine is a particularly smooth engine, delivers its power very cleanly through a wide band, and that makes it very drivable here, makes the car very drivable. It really suits this circuit. Now, Lazy in 5th place with Senna behind him, back to the leader, Thierry Boutsen, looking comfortable and solid. With Berger not attacking, not in position, and the top 6 cars at the moment reasonably spread out without any imminent signs of attack. Now, then the Benettons with the Cesaris making a sandwich in the middle, and the Cesaris will tend to be difficult to pass, and Prost is behind that group.
Nannini coming towards you now. There he is in 7th position. Then there's the gap behind him with the Cesaris in 8th position, and Nannini is closing on Ayrton Senna. Alessandro Nannini, the Italian in the Benetton-Ford. You watch on lap 3, Thierry Boutsen. The gap between him and Berger in 2nd place is just over 1 second. Patrese is 0.8 of a second behind Gerhard Berger. Mansell is a second behind Patrese. Then it's Alesi, Senna, Nannini 7th, a gap. De Cesaris 8th, Piquet 9th. Alain Prost is in 10th position, and he started in 8th, so he's been passed by 2 cars. And the leader's coming now down to turn 10, up to turn 11, which completes the lap, leads into the start and finish straight. 4th gear, 80 miles an hour, building to 150, and over the line in this order. Thierry Boutsen leads. Berger 2nd, Patrese 3rd, Mansell 4th, Alesi being caught by Senna, who is being caught by Nannini, who is in 7th position. There are Alesi and Senna, 5th and 6th. Alesi in the Tyrrell Ford, Senna, of course, in the McLaren-Honda. And look back, and you just saw Andrea De Cesaris in 8th position ahead of Nelson Piquet 9th, Alain Prost 10th. Derek Warwick is in 11th position. Eric Bernard in the Lola is in 12th place. And Martin Donnelly is 17th as Thierry Boutsen starts the climbing section at the Hungaroring into turn 5. At all at the moment on the Tyrrell Ford of Jean Alesi, who's comparatively underpowered here in relation to the McLaren-Hondas and the Benetton-Fords and the Ferrari, of course. But that doesn't matter as much at the Hungaroring.
Yes, and in fact, Alesi made quite a big mistake on that last lap. That was the puff of dust that we saw behind, which enabled Senna to catch up. We were looking at Senna at the time, there was a cloud of dust there, and that cost Alesi a slow lap, but in the meantime they're losing a fair bit of ground to the leading four. There's a gap of over 5 seconds to this group that we're looking at now. 5.7 seconds they are back.
And on lap 9, Boutsen leads Berger by an increasing margin of 1.8 seconds. Patrese a second behind Berger. Mansell is now 3 seconds behind Patrese. Alesi is 5 seconds behind Mansell, but less than a second ahead of Senna, who is 6th. Then it's Nannini 7th, Piquet 8th. Prost still in 9th position. De Cesaris 10th. Warwick is in 11th place. Martin Donnelly is in 17th position, and Eric Bernard is 12th. And Thierry Boutsen is driving an immaculate race. The quiet Belgian, driving car number 5, carrying the number that Nigel Mansell used to carry when he was with the Williams team, is driving his 115th Grand Prix, having won 2 of them, but never, as I said, from the front. And he's maintaining the gaps very carefully indeed. He's lapping a tenth of a second or so within the speed of Gerhard Berger, who's actually closed up just a little, but you can see now that Riccardo Patrese is closing the gap on Gerhard Berger. There are the first 3 within the background: Mansell, Alesi and Senna.
And Mansell catching them again. He lost a bit of ground to that group as we watch the Alesi, Senna and the Nini group go through, and that Mansell put in yet another fastest lap in the race to start clawing it back. There goes Prost going through. Prost, of course, is now having a pretty good race. Boutsen driving very steadily, very cleanly at the front. We've seen no fireworks, no mistakes. And we see Mansell's new fastest lap, but there'll be plenty more of those as the race goes on and the fuel loads come down. There is Mansell. And Mansell, I would think, is able to get back on the tail of those cars. If he doesn't want to overtake now, that's where he's sitting, is really a comfortable distance to sit back, get more air to the wings, keep the tyres cooler, and that will certainly pay dividends later in the race by nursing the car at this stage. But certainly Mansell seems to be able to put in the fastest lap every time, at any time that he wants. Any time he's got a clear run, he seems to be the quickest man on the circuit, and he's done it again, a 24.1 on this previous lap. And does that mean that he's moving up to get into a position to challenge? Now, Senna dropped back a little bit from Alesi, and they are losing ground. That group is now 7 seconds behind Nigel Mansell.
And off goes the Tyrrell of Satoru Nakajima. Well, that is confirmation of the fact that that car on that tyre is having a struggle here at the Hungaroring, because Alesi went off twice in the warm-up, as I told you, and now Satoru Nakajima is very obviously out of the race, having smashed the back of his Tyrrell into the Armco. And you're looking at the midfield then now. That's a replay as Nakajima goes onto the gravel trap and manages to keep it going, only to go into the tyre wall. Well, that was entirely his fault. I know it's easy to criticise, but as a result of injudicious use of the throttle, Satoru Nakajima is out of the Hungarian Grand Prix, which continues to be led, and there he is by Thierry Boutsen. There's the caption that gives you the gaps. Berger second, Patrese third, Nigel Mansell in 4th position ahead of Alesi and Senna. Now in 7th position it's Nannini, followed by his teammate Piquet. There's Boutsen, Berger, Patrese, and you can see the narrowing gap between Patrese and Nigel Mansell coming towards us in the Ferrari now.
Yes, and certainly stalemate between those first 4, nobody getting away pretty closely. Nannini is also being quite cheekily having a look at the back of Senna's car. Berger goes through in 2nd place, and Berger probably driving a very quiet and unobtrusive race at the moment, which is out of character for him, but I'm sure that is absolutely the right tactics, because there's no rush to try and get past Boutsen. He's leading the race very nicely, fast enough to spread the field a fair bit. And I would suggest that if he was making his attack now, Gerhard Berger, he would be risking hurting his tyres. And I'm sure the right thing to do is what he's doing, to just go with the pace and save the tyres and make the attack really for some time up from half distance onwards, say.
Lap 13, 3.5 seconds covers the first four. And that is Ayrton Senna, who is in a lowly 6th position for him, just 1 point. He obviously can't do anything about it at all, or about Jean Alesi, who is immediately in front of him. Nelson Piquet still following Nannini. Nannini 7th, Nelson Piquet 8th. Prost in 9th position, a second behind Piquet. Derek Warwick is still 10th. De Cesaris is in 11th place. Eric Bernard is in 12th position, but Boutsen is the revelation of the Hungarian Grand Prix for a lot of people. Nobody doubted his ability, but there have been a lot of questions about his ability in comparison with the top men, Mansell, Prost, Senna and Berger. Well, he's leading all of them commandingly at the moment. Gerhard Berger 1.2 seconds behind, a tenth of a second or so slower than the Belgian on the previous lap. Now, Boutsen is coming up to lap the Ligier. As usual, watch out.
And while this has been going on, Patrese's dropped back a little bit from Berger, but I suspect that's because he's paying attention to his mirrors, and he's looking backwards rather than forwards right now, because it's full of Nigel Mansell, as you can see. But the perennial problem, he can't get close enough to have a go because by Mansell, but in terms he's yo-yoing about, and in terms of progress in the race, it's not doing him any good. And what it does show is that he does have speed in hand if he can get a clear road ahead of him on which to use it.
Thierry Boutsen has got his first major of the problem of the race coming up now. You just saw the flash of the blue Ligier going out of your picture there, and Thierry Boutsen has got to get past that fast and cleanly. Otherwise, Gerhard Berger, who is seeing his opportunity now to close up on Boutsen in the hope of Boutsen getting it wrong when he passes the Ligier. They're coming out of the last right-hander into the start and finish straight. It is Philippe Alliot who is in front of them in the Ligier. So there he is, about to be lapped. Boutsen leads. Berger getting closer second. Patrese close too, with Nigel Mansell right behind him in 4th place. Still Alesi 5th and Senna 6th. Watch for the lapping manoeuvre.
Yes, and that group, starting with Alesi in 5th place, is Senna and Nannini, who've been with him all the race, is now being joined slowly, surely, by Piquet and Prost, who are slowly, gently catching Nannini. They're some 2.5 seconds behind Nannini. So we had some 5 cars. This is Riccardo Patrese with the onboard camera. That's Berger ahead of him we're looking at. Oh, what a pity. Let's hope they'll show us a bit more. Yes, back in the car again. And of course, as they get onto the brakes for the tight corners, we'll see the cars close up, and then as they get on the power, the car in front is on first. You see the huge acceleration, how it stretches the lead very dramatically. So close up under braking, stretch out as they all saw the throttle. And Thierry Boutsen moving serenely forward, but this is his first worry of the race, I would think. He's got to keep his concentration absolutely sharp here. He wants whatever he does to get past that Ligier cleanly, and he doesn't want to catch it just before they start the twisty section of the track and have to follow it for most of a lap being held up. Well, he's got a chance after turn 2 and 3, he gets onto another straight. There is Alesi. Senna still following, but not really threatening him. And Nannini just beginning to struggle to keep up with those two.
Well, now, watch this. Philippe Alliot, having been into the pits, is well and truly last. He might be affecting the position of the 1st and 2nd places, because there in the Williams-Renault, with some 650 horsepower under his right foot, closely followed by Gerhard Berger in 2nd place, is race leader Thierry Boutsen. Riccardo Patrese not far behind Berger, and Nigel Gerhard Berger 2nd is still Boutsen, Berger, Patrese 3rd, Mansell 4th, just behind Patrese. Vanini is 5th. His teammate Piquet is 6th. So both the Williams-Renaults and both the Benettons are in the top 6. Alesi is 7th. Prost is 7th. Alesi is 7th. Prost is 8th. Warwick is 9th. Senna is 10th. Bernard is 11th. Capelli is in 12th place. And Martin Donnelly is 15th. Now, can Prost do anything about the cars in front of him? It's now 1/3 race distance, just a whisker under. 25 laps completed, 77 laps raced, and Alain Prost, the world champion of 1989, having won 4 races for Ferrari this year, has got to start moving up through the field if he's to do anything in Hungary.
Well, as we'd expect, Senna has come back into the race, very much winning business. And Prost was having a look alongside Alesi as they went past us, going into turn 1. There is Ayrton Senna, and he is still over 20 seconds behind Alain Prost as they move De Cesaris' car off the circuit, towing it away, and that looks like the end of his race. And that, in fact, was what the yellow flags were for at the last corner before the 5th straight. And Ayrton Senna still some 19 seconds behind Prost in 8th place, and Senna in 10th. Derek Warwick separating the two. Senna certainly leading business.
All this, of course, demonstrates how important getting pole position is and getting a good start is, because I venture to think that if the 2 McLarens had been in front of the 2 Williams, they would now be leading, and the Williams be having just as much trouble getting past them as Berger and Senna, of course, is well back, are having. Mansell charging again, up with Patrese as they complete the lap.
Yes, and I think that's the closest that they come upon the leaders. But one of the problems for Mansell is that he believes for his package that he needs something that no other driver particularly gets, which is a sort of clear-cut #1 status, and that the spare car is always available for him. He has one for himself, and Senna doesn't have that treatment even in the McLaren team. And McLaren, I'm sure, wouldn't grant him that status, when Berger is very much a #1 driver himself and is doing a good job for the team. And one would have expected, if Senna left McLaren, that McLaren would go, would look to bring one of the senior young talents along, drivers such as Stefano Modena, for example, who is very much #1 and championship contender material, languishing in less than competitive drive at Brabham, but now with a great deal of Formula One experience behind him, would be ready, and I would have thought that that would be a more likely route for McLaren to go. So back to the race, and at the moment the stalemate, I'm afraid, still persists. Even further down the field, Prost still can't find a way past the DFV engine Tyrrell of Jean Alesi. As we look backwards,
from Alain Prost, Ferrari, and Prost is in 7th position now. He is ahead of Alesi. The crowd rose, the crowd roared as world champion Alain Prost in the Ferrari, who now really does seem to be on a charge, moved up into 7th place, 1 place off the points, and he's 4 points behind Senna in the World Championship. It's still Boutsen leading, Berger 2nd, Patrese 3rd, Mansell 4th, Nannini 5th, Piquet 6th, and Alain Prost in 7th position. Senna came in for tyres, incidentally, because he had a hole in the wheel which had let the air out, hence the requirement for a new one.
Right, good. So it was a maintenance stop rather than a tactical stop, and that would explain why he had to come in early. And as we thought it probably would, it hasn't helped his progress in the race. That very quick tyre swap by Senna, but he's in 22.2. So they are closing in on Thierry Boutsen, whose tyres won't be in the first flush of youth, and this is going to be a test of character for Boutsen. 3 of the big boys breathing down his neck, and with their breath about to get hotter and hotter as they get closer and closer. And they've got the speed advantage over him. He has the advantage of being in their way, in front of them, and with the engine probably best suited to this circuit in the form of the Renault, and a very definite acceleration advantage up the straight. And there is a car in the barrier, we can't see who that is. with marshals all around.
It's Ivan Capelli who's gone out, and now Gugelmin is the danger man because Thierry Boutsen there going across the lap. Now, how far behind Thierry Boutsen is Alessandro Nannini, who's taking Gugelmin to lap him? The answer is 2.2 seconds. You can see how close Ayrton Senna in the red-white McLaren in third place is to Nannini. And now let's see, Ayrton Senna is lapping fastest of all at the minute. 123.0, Boutsen 123.9, Nannini 124.2, but he was held up. You can see Mansell and Berger, 4th and 5th, behind the McLaren of Ayrton Senna. 6th is Nelson Piquet. Williams-Renault leads. Benetton-Ford, 2nd, Nannini. Then the McLaren of Senna, the Ferrari of Mansell, the McLaren of Gerhard Berger, the Benetton of Nelson Piquet. Derek Warwick is only 1 place off the points after a fine drive. He's much happier with the Lotus Lamborghini than he has been all season so far. They've got it balanced. There's a new car coming along for the next race, we think. And Thierry Boutsen continues to hold his lead on this, the 60th lap out of 17. Now look how close it is. Boutsen, Nannini, Senna, Mansell, Berger. Those are the first 5. They're coming through now to complete their 60th lap. The gap was 2.1 seconds between Boutsen and Nannini. Boutsen goes across the line, Nannini goes across the line. It's 1.3 seconds. Nannini is going to... Boutsen needs to keep it good and tight. He is going to win the Hungarian Grand Prix for his 3rd victory, and Thierry Boutsen does indeed do just that. From Belgium, Brussels, Thierry Boutsen, who has driven an immaculate race, wins his 3rd Grand Prix. He took a brilliant pole position. He led every inch of the way. They are great friends, Thierry Boutsen and Ayrton Senna, and Senna realises that he's been fairly and squarely beaten by his friend. Nelson Piquet coming home in 3rd position. There he is over the line to score 4 more points in what is turning out to be an excellent season, lifting him to 22 points. But of course, Ayrton Senna now increases his World Championship lead. And Martin Donnelly is going to finish in 7th position. The first 4 are already home. I thought this was going to be an exciting race. I didn't think it was going to be quite as exciting as this. Boutsen very, very happy, as indeed he should be, because he knows that he has got a foot into the hall of the great as a result of this race. He staved off Senna, he staved off Berger, he staved off Mansell. Prost was never in the race, and it is Thierry Boutsen, having won the Hungarian Grand Prix by 0.288 seconds. Nelson Piquet in 3rd position, Riccardo Patrese in the 2nd, Williams in 4th place, Derek Warwick in 6th position, and Eric Bernard scores points for Derek Warwick in 5th place, and Eric Bernard scores points for the 3rd time this season. So now Ayrton Senna leads Alain Prost in the World Championship by 10 points. Gerhard Berger is in 3rd position, Thierry Boutsen in 4th place, Nelson Piquet in 5th position, and Riccardo Patrese 6th.
2nd, 3rd Nelson Piquet, 4th Patrese, 5th Warwick. Bernard is in 6th spot. Then Donnelly, Gugelmin, Caffey, Pirro, Larini, Alboreto, Tarquini, Alio, and Barilla last 15th. We saw a lot of him. The points, well, Senna, of course, has pulled away from Alain Prost. 54 points to Prost's 44. 3rd, Gerhard Berger with 29. 4th is Boutsen. Now you see it on the screen. We're just a little bit before the official caption. So Senna, Prost, Berger, Boutsen, Piquet. 6th in the championship, Patrese with 15. Then Alesi, Mansell, Capelli, Bernard, Warwick, Caffey, Modena, Suzuki and Nakajima. So Bernard getting another point. Good drive from him. And a good drive for Derek Warwick. But what a fantastic drive from Thierry Boutsen. Recently a father. His son Kevin, just a couple of weeks ago. Constructors' points. McLaren-Honda 83, Ferrari 57, Williams-Renault 42, Benetton-Ford 35, Tyrrell Ford 14, Leighton House Judd 6. The second winner of the season for the Williams-Renault team. All the cars now coming in. And what a magnificent World Championship we are having this season. Confirmation there again of the result. A battle royal between Boutsen and Senna. There's a major incident. That was what put Nannini out of the race. Steering arm bent. And there you see the empty track. Belgian Grand Prix coming up a couple of weeks' time. Sunday, the 26th of August, live on Eurosport on the magnificent Spa-Francorchamps circuit. So join us again in 2 weeks' time for the Belgian Grand Prix.
És milyen jó a technika, ez a televíziós technika, hogy rögzülnek ezek az előzések, ezek a nagy pillanatok, és ilyen hamar meg tudjuk mutatni a verseny után. És engedjék már meg, hogy haza is beszéljek egy kicsit, ugyanis az, hogy itt meg tudjuk tenni, azt, hogy megmutatjuk ezt, ott vannak a dobogon közben a győztesek, aztán majd beszélek erről tovább.
belga himnusz, majd brit himnusz.
Az idei Hungaroring.
És most pedig a díjátadás, a díjakat átadja Csiklós Csaba, miniszter, Thierry Boutsen pedig az, aki az 5. magyar nagydíj győzteseként átveszi a serleget. És ezt pedig a Canon Williams csapat kapja. Azért nem Frank Williams veszi át a díjat, mert őt azt hiszem ennyi idő alatt a tolószéknek tudták felhozni a díjátadó tribűnre.
A második helyezett díját Galló Rezső az OTSH elnöke nyújtja át. Ez a díj is, mint az összes többi a Hollóházi porcelángyárban készült. Az ottani munkát dicséri. A harmadik helyezett pedig Dr. Konrád Antaltól, a MAMS elnökétől kapja a tiszteletdíjat.
És jön a pezsgő, szóval a Frank Williams emlékezetes balesete óta, mióta tolószékbe kényszerült, azóta nem nagyon viszik föl ide a győzelmi emelvényre, és egyik megbízottja az, aki átveszi a csapatnak járó serleget. Szóval magunkat dicsérve, ez nem is dicséret tulajdonképpen, de hát szóval csak megszólal az ember szíve, hogy volt mit megmutatni ezután a verseny után. Szóval nem kellett nagyon keresgélni, meg lehetett mutatni, lehetett látni. Itt azért valami volt az utolsó 40 körben.
Amennyiben a magunkat dicsérve ez az egész társaságra vonatkozik, amit említettem már, meg kell, hogy mondjam, mert a stáblistára mindig csak nagyon kevesen férnek rá, hogy ez a közvetítés egy pokolian nehéz dolog, amiben emberek százai vesznek részt bizony.
Az interjú.
Mikrofon próbálják. Fiúk isznak. Jeff Hutchins, angol kollégám. Nem tudja, hogy mutatjuk.
Ezek azok a pillanatok, amikor fölkészülnek, elhelyezik a mikrofonokat, keresik a helyet, benézik a dolgokat.
Thierry,
végigvezettél, de csak centiméterekkel nyertél. Milyen?
Quite difficult, but I must say for the first half of the race I was just controlling it. I had Gerhard behind me, about a second and a half behind me. and I was just driving at his speed to conserve the tires, to try to go as far as we could with the tires of the race, especially because I had quite a lot of oversteer from the beginning of the race. After that, there was a little bit of gap, 5, 6, 7 seconds with the next one, but then the gap closed very quickly because my rear tires had gone off completely, and I was sliding very, very much, and I tried to keep Ayrton behind as much as I could until the last lap, and it was a right to cross the finish line. I don't think I could have done one more lap in front of him.
Nem hiszem, hogy még egy körben fel tudtam volna tartani.
You decided to carry on with the tires you had. In retrospect, I know you won the race, but do you think it was a wise decision?
For me, yes, because
Gondolod, hogy helyes volt ezeken a gumikon maradni?
At its maximum, I had some problems with it. I had also a very long brake pedal, and I had to carry on as far as I could with the car. But being the lead, it's also very difficult to stop, you know. With such a small margin, it's a bit of a gamble. The last pit stop...
Lutri volt végeredményben, de úgy éreztem, hogy ez így volt helyes.
I didn't want to risk it here.
Nem akartam megkockáztatni. Még egyszer gratulálunk. Most nyertél harmadszor. Negyedik vagy. Ayrton. Nagyon korán megálltál. 10. helyre visszaestél. Felküzdötted magadat. Nekem mentél Nannininek. Mi történt? A magyar rész mindig egy nagyon nehéz verseny. Megálltam. Abszolút nem ment az autó rendesen. Sok időt elvesztettem. Visszakerültem új gumikkal, ami minden rendben volt. Nyomtam, ahogy csak tudtam. Láttam, hogy Prost kiesett. Gondoltam, oké, hát akkor most aztán tényleg ráhajtok. Tökéletes a bajnokság szempontjából, gondoltam. Félelmetes verseny volt. Mikor utolértem őket, akkor fantasztikus a forgalom. Kibecikáztunk.
In fact, I came to the inside, and I don't know whether he didn't see me or he just tried to close the door, and I put my car over the grass, but couldn't avoid the contact. He went in the air, and fortunately my car was very little damage.
Tudtam elkerülni. Amilyen szereny.
I'm very happy for the result. I think I was not expecting for sure to be in the top 3 here before coming to this race. I was expecting the 2 Ferraris to be very strong. And of course, in terms of championship, second place for me, with the other results, the other 6 places is perfect.
Ez a második hely. A többiekkel az első 6-ban nekem így nagyon-nagyon jó. Nelson Piquet, nem sokat láttál az egészből. Végül mégiscsak harmadik lettél. Nagyon unalmas versenyen volt.
And after that I started having the same problem with throttle I have in Silverstone. First core of the electronics and the throttle was not working, and was like to drive on and off, and that
különböző elektronikus problémáim voltak.
Coming slowly the throttle, and I could do these.
Hol tudtam adni gázt, hol nem.
And the car was getting worse and worse.
Egyre rosszabb volt az autóm.
Patrese was coming close in the last lap.
Patrese egyre közelebb volt hozzám.
Luckily a lot of people stopped.
Nagy szerencsém volt.
That case I could finish in third, but for me it was very boring. I have no fight at all.
Nagyon unalmas volt. Végül nem küzdöttem, csak mentem körbe-körbe.
A magnificent victory in Hungary for Thierry Boutsen, finishing just ahead of Ayrton Senna with Nelson Piquet in 3rd position, Riccardo Patrese 4th, Derek Warwick in the points at 5th, and Eric Bernard in 6th position. So now Ayrton Senna leads Alain Prost in the Drivers' Championship by 10 points, with Gerhard Berger 3rd, Thierry Boutsen in 4th position, Nelson Piquet 5th, and Riccardo Patrese 6th. McLaren extend their lead in the Constructors' Championship to 26 points ahead of Ferrari. Williams back to 3rd position, Benetton down to 4th, and Tyrrell in 5th place. And in 2 weeks' time, we go to the great natural road course Spa for the Belgian Grand Prix. With the competition boiling, are we going to see another new winner? Watch Grand Prix.
este terceiro lugar, a Dallara tem praticamente assegurada a saída das pré-qualificações e a Lotus vê afastado o perigo de cair nelas, tal como a Minardi. A satisfação de Gigi Leto quando era executado o hino brasileiro. E naturalmente pouco entusiasmo do público nesta vitória de Senna, Berger e do terceiro lugar de Leto. A ausência dos Ferraris nos lugares principais arrefeceram profundamente este público que acorreu aqui em grande número ao circuito Enzo e Dino Ferrari. Estamos a aproximar-nos do final desta transmissão, uma transmissão que foi feita através da rede Eurovisão para o continente e para as regiões autónomas da Madeira e dos Açores. Mais um triunfo, o terceiro consecutivo do brasileiro Ayrton Senna, que assim toma uma posição muitíssimo favorável no campeonato do mundo de Fórmula 1. 30 pontos, leva já somados o atual campeão do mundo contra 10 de Berger e 9 de Alain Prost. Quanto à vantagem da McLaren, é também bastante grande. Veremos o que se irá passar dentro de 15 dias no circuito sinuoso e citadino de Mónaco. Cerimónia do champanhe e, espectadores da Rádio e Televisão Portuguesa, em meu nome e nos Domingos Piedade, esperamos que esta transmissão lhes tenha chegado em boas condições de imagem e som.
Inside all over the place. Gerhard Berger, Ayrton Senna, just total domination from John Watson and myself in San Marino. We leave you with these pictures of the weekend.
A McLaren 1-2 and pleasure for Keke Rosberg. He manages both Leto and Häkkinen. A good result all round for Lotus and the only Ferrari in the top four, the engine in Martini's Minardi. Overall, Senna triumphant.
My main problem was only the engine. The car was not perfect because it was a compromise between wet and dry, but it was good. And my problem was really the engine with the oil pressure. Somehow we had the problem with the oil pressure. I think we had this problem this morning already, and it gave a problem again in the afternoon, and it was more than 30 laps with the oil light flashing, and I dropped the revs immediately on the shifting and also on the straight, start to lift on the straight to not have much revs, and it seemed to work good to at least stabilize the engine. And then I was just trying to control myself with Gerhard, and fortunately for me, unfortunately for him, he also had some problem. And then was possible for me to slow down and still maintain some gap, and then we both were able to finish first and second. And it was impossible to brake late. I had to brake early, had to brake down with the engine, and just slow down and just control the rest of the field. And suddenly, 15-20 laps later, the caliper starts to work again. And
third place was JJ Lehto's best result ever. An outstanding effort, having started in the back half of the field.
Basically, in the beginning of the race, it was very, very difficult conditions. I mean, starting from the 16th place, there was a lot of smoke and everything, and you couldn't see really nothing. And I was just taking easy, and then when we changed the slicks, it was getting better and better, the car, and I was just going for it.
Another delighted Finn, Mika Häkkinen, who came home fifth.
It was first time for me racing in a wet condition F1. It was unbelievable. It was, you couldn't see absolutely anything. Even the next car in front of you have a red light, you couldn't see that.
Race was going well. Unfortunately, I had a problem with the engine, that electrical problem, I think. I was driving, I think, very hard to keep Senna behind, but I think I could do it. And also, for me, it was very good to be in front in the wet, because my good feeling for the race was in the dry setup. And I think if I was in front in the wet, I could have even a better chance when it was dry.
What was going on in your mind when you were sitting for the long pit stop?
Nothing. Just a bit of